Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tracy Miranda, and I'll be talking to you about Espruino, which is JavaScript for things, or JavaScript for microcontrollers. And we're going to have lots of demos. Hopefully they all work, lots of fun with it, and yeah, just should be fun. Okay, there's just three things I'm going to tell you about Espruino first of all. So Espruino is an open source JavaScript interpreter for microcontrollers. It essentially lets you write JavaScript and interprets it for you into commands for the board. Espruino, besides being the software, besides being the interpreter, is also this little board over here. So we call that the Espruino Board, and that showcases Espruino's best features of interactivity and great battery life. And it's really, really easy to get started. So we're going to get straight in with the demo. And it just takes 3 steps. You need to open up or install Espruino Chrome web app. And then you need to plug in your board, and then you start typing code. So we'll do that. OK, so this is the web ID you use with Espruino. It's a Chrome web app, so it works with Chrome. And it allows you to talk to the board over serial. So I'm going to plug in my board, and then I connect, and then I unplug again, sorry. Curse of the demo. Sorry? Try 8. Let's see if that's 8. OK, so then you can start running JavaScript commands. So that's all executing on the board, or we could say, hello, Eclipse Con. And you've got, as part of it, you've got command history. So you can go up and down, and that's stored on the board. Right, if I go into presenter mode now. OK, you should be able to see the board up front, and we can try talking to some hardware, because that's what it's all about. So to talk to hardware, you use methods like digital write, so it's very Arduino-like. And for the board, LED1 is the name of the LED, so I know. And we're talking to the wrong board, aren't we?
Yeah, we're talking to the wrong board.
OK, so shall we? Let's just try and connect to the right board. Disconnect. Eeny, meeny, miny.
Should be 9 that you had to just add 8 lines.
OK. That one's
Keep looking for yourself.
Otherwise, we just move the camera.
Oh, this sucks.
OK, maybe we'll just show this board.
Try one last time, and then go for the other board.
Okay.
And then say, whoops. Yeah.
Yeah, can we do this one?
Just do this one. There you go.
OK, so hopefully you can see that, and we'll get rid of this one altogether. OK, so the LED, the red LED that you can see there is the one we turned on. So we're going to turn that off now. So that turns off. And then the other ways to do that as well. So I could turn on LED 3 by saying set, and that turns on there. Or I could do LED right, and I'll send a 0 to turn it off. And really, this could be a demo about different ways in JavaScript to turn on LEDs. But the point is with the write is all the inputs, all the outputs, all extend from the pin class. So you might want to use the write for more generic things if you're connecting your own peripherals to it. OK, if we go back to the digital write, let's say we do some more JavaScript. We could turn that into a function. So we say we're going to have it toggle function. And I'm going to say I is equal to not I. And just indent that. So we wrap that up in a function, send that onto the board. Then we can call our toggle function.
22 digital right line.
Yes. I'm glad someone's paying attention. Okay, just fix that. Anything else? Let's check our board is working again. Let's try on third one. Oh, sorry, I'm sending one. Okay. I'm just going to switch to 3 and I. So now we can use the function and that toggles it on and off. If you did want to do something like have it go automatically, I could do set interval on the toggle function, and I could say set that at 100, and then it would just flash as you go. So I'm gonna, and you can keep playing with things like that, and I could change the interval, and I could say change that to 500. Then it blinks a bit slowly. And as you go, you could build up functions, and you could do the same with the other lights and things like that. Okay, so let's look at maybe getting something in from the buttons. Just. Oh, okay. Right, we'll show you some buttons later. But the idea is, yeah, so the idea is that you have all these methods like digital read and write, and it makes it very easy to just put together functions and just get going in the console and do things interactively. Okay, so we'll leave that. Back to the slides. Oh, okay. Right, so if we look at what's actually happening, there's we've got Espruino software running, and what it is it's a little interpreter which has been written in C. It's purpose-built for microcontrollers, so you couldn't just take an existing JavaScript interpreter, because that's designed for computers which have lots and lots of memory, not for little embedded systems. It's all open source, and so no operating system, and it's really small, so it runs in less than 8K of RAM. And you can run it on the terminal app, and it has the multi-line editing, command history, and you can talk to it over serial or even over Bluetooth. And so Espruino software was written maybe at the beginning of 2013, but the writer Gordon Williams found that nobody was really using it because there was no way to showcase how powerful it was. So as you do in the hardware world, he ran a Kickstarter campaign to develop a board that would showcase Espruino in the best light. So in September of last year, that Kickstarter campaign went live, and he was aiming to get £20,000 to fund the board to see if, well, were people actually interested in running JavaScript on a board. And the response he got was really good. Turns out lots of people do want to write JavaScript and have it talk to a board. So he achieved sort of 5 times his target. Now I know Gordon, I used to work with him at Altera. So we used to do hardware things in an environment where a microcontroller is actually a luxury. So I did know that whatever he does, he's a pretty smart guy, so anything he turns his hand to is going to be good, because he's a maker in the true sense of the word. He just, whether it's engines or microcontrollers, he's always building stuff. So I must admit, I'm not much of a JavaScript person myself, but I'll get to what my particular interest is in this board in a bit. But first, let me tell you a bit more about the board. Okay, so it's a little board, and if we sort of compare it with that one, it's, that's a Raspberry Pi side by it, so it's pretty small, about the size of a credit card. And it's got some nice functionality on there. On this side, you can just see the battery and the idea of having a prototype area. So it really is, for people who want to connect custom parts to it. It doesn't take shields and things like that. So you just kind of connect things up through pins or, through a board, a breadboard. On the back, it's more interesting. You can see it's got micro SD, general purpose pins, USB, and Bluetooth. And with the pins, of course, you can do things like SPI and I2C. And the whole board is also open source hardware, so that's available. You can go have a look at the code on GitHub.
Is it 5-volt pine, GPIO?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll get to my interest in it. I've got little kids, and ever since I've had the little kids, I've been quite interested in knowing what's on offer for kids related to learning technology. And so I've been getting involved with some initiatives, and in particular this one, which is called Fire Tech Camp. And it's a tech camp which runs in London, and they teach kids things like programming mobile apps and video games. And a lot of it is writing in JavaScript. So most of the kids come in and they learn JavaScript. So my real interest, I'd much rather teach hardware than web stuff. So it's like, well, how can we take these kids who've already learned JavaScript because they're attracted to web programming, they're attracted to mobile apps, and kind of move them into a hardware world. And I think that's where Espruino works really well. And we'll be looking to do some workshops and maybe get the kids involved. So this picture is actually from a wearable tech workshop. We're getting the kids to put LEDs on some clothes and things. So yeah, they're all really eager to learn and really eager to try things out and really eager to flash LEDs. So that's good. Okay, the other side of things is I don't particularly want a smart house, but I would really like a smart chicken house. We keep chicken, and when we're away at EclipseCon, it would be really nice if there was something automatic to open and close the door when the sun goes down, the sun comes up. I like the counter that they had outside, so maybe a little counter, so when the chickens go in, I know we've got 6 chickens inside. And something to tell me when the water's frozen as well in the winter, so we know we have to go replace that, or turn on a little heater to melt the water. So yeah, just smart chicken home automation is what I'd really like to do. And one of the reasons I really fancy Espruino for this is just because of its power-saving ability. The interpreter itself knows when it has to go to sleep and how deeply. I don't have to worry about writing special code to have it turn off or set timers or watchdog things or mess around with anything like that. And just some comparison numbers. If I was to do just a naive LED flashing with 700 milliamp battery, Raspberry Pi, it would be done in no time because it's got so much circuitry on it, 1 or 2 hours. Arduino, you might get 1 or 2 days, but Espruino, that would go for about 6 months, so that really appeals. So long battery life comes at a cost, and the reality is Espruino just has 8K of RAM. So that's on this board. Of course, you can run Espruino on any board. You could put it on your Raspberry Pi board if you wanted to, but for this board, it's just 8K of RAM, and that has to fit your program and your data. And just to help you visualize that, if you were to imagine this is displayed as 32 as pixels as it was in memory, and next to it is a 16-pixel favicon as would be stored, say, on your computer's memory. You'd only get about 16 of those in reality. So I guess the moral is don't put favicons on your Espruino code or something like that. But less is more, and it kind of keeps in with the nature of it that you can connect up sensors and actuators and get a lot out of it, but you are limited. You are in real embedded programming land. And I'm not the only one looking at things to do with automation. So there's an open source community behind Espruino, and it's really friendly. If you go onto the forums, everyone's pretty helpful. And they're doing all sorts of things related to just automating little bits and pieces around the house. So if that's something that interests you, I say get onto the forums and just see what people are doing and see if you've got your pet project, give it a go. Okay, let's try another demo, and this time we're going to look at maybe how you'd connect up a sensor to some lights. And we're going to use that sensor, which is a it's a pyroelectric sensor, and it's what you normally have in burglar alarms. So it detects motion sort of every 2 seconds. So when there's motion, then you can tie something into that to have it react. And we're going to use it to just flash some LEDs in this case. Okay, so
that's commands to control.
okay, so the first thing I'll say, there's quite a bit on the Espruino website, and like for instance, this motion sensor, I got it off the Kickstarter project, so it's already got code up there to show you how to use it. So I'll start off by just copying that little bit of code, and I'll paste it into there, and we connect it to it. Oops. Right, 12 for this one. Let's see if we can see the sensor. Oh no, we don't need to see anything. Okay, so paste the code there. So basically, when it detects any motion on pin A1, which is what we've got it connected to, then it's going to call our function, and we're just going to log movement detected. So let's see if that works. Okay, so yeah. So we'll do that every 2 seconds if you do wave in front of there. So Andrew, maybe every 2 seconds. Good. Okay, so when you get to a point where you've graduated from using the console, it's got a web editor there. It supports a single web page, and also, I'll show you this quickly. It's also got a little graphical editor, which is a bit like Scratch, yeah. So for people who are familiar with Scratch, they can kind of put things in there and connect up and download to the board. But I will open up my full program. So this program is designed to connect up the sensor to the lights. I'll download that. Andrew? Okay. I can see motion detected, and let's see. I'll just fiddle things a bit.
We're going to play EasyJet for any part of the demo doesn't work. There you go.
Okay, stop moving. So after a while they fade off, just like you might have for some sensing lights outside your house, and then if you move, they turn back on. I'll get that out of the way. So let's try that one more time. So that should fade after a few seconds. Or I can just call the method straight away and say lights off. I think that's what it's called. Lights on, lights off, lights off. No. Stop talking to me. Okay, let's re-download. Lights off. Lights off, and then, you can call any methods you've downloaded now. No, put them off. Turn them off.
So whenever you reset the board, it actually uploads the current code, or it's like in Flash?
Yeah, so you have to do save if you want the program to stay on the board. Otherwise, it will just kind of reset to what it has in Flash. So, okay. Right, let's go back to, oh, I missed it. Okay, so yeah, so that's sensors and actuators, and there's a whole bunch on the website, so have a look, and if you want to do your own things, you can do those as well. Okay, now I'm going to talk a bit about Eclipse Orion. When I went to EclipseCon in the US earlier this year, there was a lot of buzz around Orion, and it was the first time I was seeing it live, and it looked really cool because you were doing JavaScript programming in the cloud. So it really is tools for the web on the web. As you can see, been there, got the t-shirt. So I'm Orion now. So I really like my tools, and I think we get a bit spoiled in Eclipse because we've got lots of automation, we've got lots of intelligence. So it's like, well, how can we take this and actually have much, much better tools? And so I was looking at Orion to see what we could do. So when I first came into Orion, it was a bit like the old days of Eclipse because it was one of these, a platform on the web for anything and everything. And so it took a bit of time to sort of say, okay, well, what actually can it do? And for that, well, the Orion team were very helpful, like Ken Walker kind of pointed me at a few things. But still, it's so powerful that we could say, well, do we want to have Orion inside Espruino Chrome web app? Or do we want to have, do you want Orion inside Espruino, or do you want Espruino inside Orion? Because you could sort of do it both ways. So, of course, we said, well, let's try both, and let's see what happens. So first, we're going to try and put Orion inside Espruino. And what it actually is that you can embed the Orion editor, so just the editor part, and we can use it inside Espruino. So what Espruino had there before was Code Mirror, which is syntax highlighting, but doesn't really give you that much room to grow into. Where we then put in Orion, got some syntax highlighting. We started working on the code completion, which is coming along nicely. And I'll show you the editor using Orion a bit later for the next demo. So that was cool. So we had that working. So the other side, can we put Espruino in Orion? And the idea was that we would have a little button so you could download the code. So you develop your code in Orion. And for those of you who haven't seen Orion, this is what it looks like in a web browser. And then when you finish, you'd have a download button. So you'd say, OK, send that to my board. This we haven't quite got working. So we do have a Chrome extension that lets you talk serially to the board. But at the moment, where Orion is running, it's sandboxed in an iframe, and we can't, there's a wall between them, so we can't get Orion talking to the actual hardware. So it's, it's web security. But I think we bounced off some ideas of Benjamin and John Aythorn of Orion, and we're going to tackle it in some different ways. But yeah, I think that will be really nice. And yeah, the other thing I could easily see as well is having perhaps a console embedded in here, because Orion also comes with a console. And that would be really nice, because then you can take advantage of the features of Orion, which include Git integration and project management. So this would be my grand vision for how the tools would work, that you'd have a really nice migration path for people coming into it. So you start with your new user on the far side, and they're just going to do commands at the console, like we started off doing. And then you graduate them to using a single editor. OK, I want to do just one program in a single editor. Maybe it's Scratch-like, maybe it's just a file. And they can do that still in embedded Orion. And then once they get more advanced and they want to do projects which involve different modules, we get Orion handling those dependencies. And then you get the advantages of having projects and Git and things like that. So, OK, to show you Orion, we're also going to try a demo. And in the spirit of the talk this morning, we are actually going to try and connect to the internet. So we're going to do hardware, software, and connect to cyberspace. We've got that's a TI CC3000 Wi-Fi module. And Espruino supports code that looks somewhat like this. So you just connect it to the Wi-Fi, and it can host up a page for us. So we're going to give that a go and see what happens, because we're trying to talk to the internet. So it could be interesting. OK, so what we'll do is disconnect here, and I'm just going to close that down. And this is going to be the one with Orion in it. So on the editor side here, this is actually Orion, and it might not look that different because it is a JavaScript editor, but once you start doing things like code completion, you'll start to see it looks more like Orion for those of you who have used it. So anyway, so that's just Orion. It just slots in and takes over from CodeMirror. So I'm going to open up that file. Send that to oh, let's connect first. Okay, what I'm expecting back is it to give me an IP address. And I'll just make sure I am connected to. Okay. Cross your fingers, everybody. Doesn't go like the rest of the things. We might need to download that occasionally the module doesn't handle some things, so I'm going to try that again. Let's see if we're on the Wi-Fi. Can I minimize that? Yeah, I was on that.
But doesn't the big house app need the internet to download? Pretty easy for the Wi-Fi.
No, okay, let's just try connect to that first. Oh, okay, there we go. We've got the IP address in there.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm going to
Yeah.
The case where I have.
We decided we'd just run it off our own. Okay, who can remember what that said? So 193. 2.168.16. So 167. Okay, and there we go. We've got our little house there, and I'm gonna. Yep. So it's HTML with SVG using Inkscape. So I put in Inkscape, and if I can try to get that side by side so we can actually see some things. Okay, so have a look at the house. Imagine it's got chickens in it, and something like that. And then I'm gonna turn on the lights. So we've individually collected the lights and linked them to each panel on the window. So we can send that over the internet, and as I click through, the lights light up, and then I can turn them off as well, and things like that. And
Big Bang Theory episode.
okay. Yeah. So you can do servo motors as well, and I don't know if I have my little demo here. So I've got a servo motor connected to this. So I don't know if you can see that, but we've got our little Eclipse. So we've got Espruino, Orion, and Eclipse. There we go. And yep, that's it. I'm done. So,